Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Drive 50% More Patients to Your Center Without Spending a Dime. I'm Kathy Hammond, CEO of MedFit Staffing Solutions. We're excited to have as our presenter today, MK Getler from Birdeye, a leader in online reputation management. MK is Director of Demand Generation at Birdeye, and she has more than 15 years experience in digital marketing. What this means is she helps clients leverage social media and the web to improve their brand recognition, their online reputation, and most importantly, really to drive business through your doors. So welcome, MK. We are really glad to have you here with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy. I'm so honored and feel privileged to be here and be able to share some of our insights that we've gathered along the years around reputation management for urgent cares. As you said, Birdeye is that all-in-one reputation management platform. And what we try to do is we try to help our customers turn their patients, turn their customers, turn their most loyal customers into their engine that drives their marketing. We've done a lot of work throughout the years to be able to integrate as seamlessly as possible with any systems you have, but also with some of those practices that your customers may have internally as well. Enough about Birdeye, though. I'd like to just tell you a little bit more about how we can help your clientele and help you as an urgent care provider to get more patients coming through to your urgent care. So I thought I'd quick start off by sharing some insights in the State of the Union, especially in the marketing world, and then dive into understanding how to use your customers to help drive and accelerate your marketing strategy. I thought I'd also then package up some 3 quick steps that you today can start implementing into managing your online reputation. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't rewind and recap all the things that we've gone through during today's presentation. And then I know that there are some questions that have already been brought in through some of the people who were interested or engaged in this webinar before we got started. So happy to answer any questions you may have to help manage your online reputation. So without further ado, I thought I'd start off by just kind of painting the landscape about where we stand today in the world of marketing. Now, back in the day, and I might be dating myself a little bit here when I talk about the fact that as seen on TV was really the way where people found out about new marketing techniques, new products in the marketplace. It really, back in the day, used to be about, could your budget be able to equip you and allow you to reach the audience? And your marketing team or your sales team determine the success of your business. Now today, what is really interesting about consumer trends and about the way that technology has evolved, of course, we all know that the first place we go to research a product, brand, or service is to take to the internet. And what's really becoming a very interesting trend that emerges is that the customers, your happy customers, are actually what determines the success of your business. It's because those customers are becoming an evangelist or helping to evangelize your business. They are serving as amplification of your marketing efforts. And because of that, that old marketing playbook is broken. The marketing tactics of yesteryear of, sitting around almost Mad Men style, thinking around a campaign, thinking about how much money and budget we could spend, those marketing efforts are becoming less and less potent in the marketing place. And what's quickly becoming a replacement for those marketing tactics are now what your customers are saying about you on places like social media, or even some of the online review avenues that are in channels that are available for them to amplify their voice. So I thought, again, is that those old stats that I was just, or those old anecdotes that I was just sharing weren't compelling enough. There are some stats that are starting to show this wave, this trend that's emerging in the marketplace. The first of which is that, 44% of direct mail is never opened. And I think many of us are probably well aware of the junk mail. Some of us may even still have junk mail drawers. We just kind of toss away some of those discarded postcards that we've gotten that we've never really used. But what's becoming more and more prevalent now as we start to look at the emerging trends in technology is that 91% of folks are unsubscribing from their subscription email services. And as we look at more and more down the way, we're looking at people who even on the cell phone service or the landline service, that 200 million people have actually asked to be put on the do not call list. On the uptrend, though, what's really interesting in terms of consumer trends about what's happening on the internet, and really where I think many of your urgent care providers and healthcare providers can start to take some land grab, here is that 93% of people are searching for businesses online. Now, I don't know about you, but I've just recently relocated to the greater Dallas area. I'm looking for new healthcare providers. I'm looking actually for even new mechanics in my area. And the first place that I go to try to find these services that mean so much to me is the internet. I'm looking at reviews and I'm searching for those folks there on Google. So I'm guilty of this second set here where I'm that 90% of people who are choosing that business that shows up first on Google. And I am also guilty of this third set here where I rarely ever go past that first page of Google. So I fall within that bracket of 75% of folks who never go past that first page. What I have found really interesting, and so my background in digital marketing also spreads some of the tactics and strategies around search engine marketing, and the fact that in the last few years or so, Google has also reported that there has been a 500% growth in the near me online searches for businesses. And by that, I mean people who are typing for urgent care near me, or mechanic near me, or dentist near me. People are adding in that near me search at the end of their search. And so being able to be found locally is becoming more and more prevalent, especially again, being on that first page of Google. All that to say that what's really interesting about these consumer trends is that your future patients don't care what you as a marketer have to say about your urgent care. Realistically, it's what your current patients are saying that matters most to them when making the decision to go to your urgent care practice. So another way to think about that is right now on the internet, as you and I are sitting here on this webinar, enjoying maybe a cup of coffee or maybe even some lunch, our current patients are talking to our future patients. And it's as you as a marketer to understand, first off, what people are saying about you online, and you have an active hand in helping to embrace your online reputation. And that's where you think about your online reviews. So I thought I'd kind of paint the landscape now that we've understood the marketing landscape and some of the consumer trends, about ways in which marketers can capitalize on some of this consumer trend with online reviews. And again, suffice it to say that your patients do care about online reviews. In fact, 92% of prospective patients are reading reviews before they get in there and start choosing a healthcare provider. And 88% of folks are saying that online reviews are influential, so much so that their online reviews from strangers on the internet are actually just as valuable, just as important as personal recommendations from family members, from friends, or from folks in the area that they've met face to face. Some more stats around the online reviews. When it comes to using online reviews as a mechanism for finding and selecting a healthcare provider, folks are looking to make sure that you have at least 10 reviews available for a trusting practice. Anybody who has 10 or more is more likely to get a better view and overview of what someone's healthcare provider is doing when someone makes the decision to go to their office. And what's interesting too, that I have found a trend that I have started to notice is becoming more and more prevalent for these marketers who are helping to manage urgent care and helping to manage healthcare provider services, is that 89% of folks are actually reading the responses that an urgent care is leaving into the reviews that their patients have left online. Now, obviously, there are some implications, especially for the healthcare industry, around HIPAA and any of the specificity with which you can reply to people's reviews online. But suffice it to say that the fact that you are paying attention to what your patients are saying actually goes a long way in showing people what your practice will do with your bedside manner, with how you treat your patients when they're there with you face to face. Also, 82% of people are deliberately seeking out those negative reviews for validation. Again, it has everything to do with the fact that you can't please and serve everyone. And so we found that in the consumer trends that folks who are not finding negative reviews or bad reviews about a business, product, brand, or even a practice are finding that they actually find it highly suspect if you only get 5-star reviews. They want to see the full depth and breadth of what you can do. And most consumers are well aware of the fact that you can't please everybody, and there is going to be an occasion or two where you haven't met everybody's needs. And that's okay. It's okay to have those bad reviews and paint the full realistic picture of what's happening in your practice. And what I also find really interesting is the marketplace is changing right now, and people are using their voice and helping to help others find the right healthcare providers. 80% of people have written at least one review in their lifetime. What we've also found really interesting in this research that we've pulled from Bright Local is people are paying attention to what people are saying with those reviews. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody listening into this webinar that people won't consider a practice that has less than 4 stars. Obviously it's not common to hear that people want to go to the 5-star service. So my recommendation is making sure that you spend that time making sure that you do have a good star rating. Now that comes at a price when it comes to the volume of reviews that you have as well. So it's interesting that the stat here that more often than not people want to see about 40 reviews left on behalf of your urgent care. Anything over 40 is seen as well. It means that you have the volume. It means you have the right type of people who are vocal going in and leaving this feedback. So quality is a really important variable, as is quantity of reviews. And the only way to offset reviews, maybe you get a 3-star, 3.5-star review, which brings your score down. The only way to bring that score back up is obviously just real math just says this, that to make sure that you do have the volume of 4 or 5-star reviews to help offset maybe a 3.5-star review. What we've also found really interesting, and the nerd in me was also really surprised to see that the recency of a review is also important. In fact, 85% of people think that reviews older than 3 months are irrelevant. And as I was reflecting on my own personal consumer behaviors, I also realized that anything that happened within anything that happened after 3 months, I found the data maybe to have been, old. If not antiquated after that 3 months, which is funny to think that in this day and age that 3 months is antiquated. So my advice to most folks who are considering a reputation management platform is first and foremost, go take a look at what the most recent review has been left for your business. Go look at the number of reviews that are left for your business. And then of course, the easiest demarcation of success is the star rating that someone has left for you and your practice. Well, what is fun and interesting, especially for a business who has a good online review or is proud of what's been left out there for them on a review management website, is that most folks, most patients, their next step after reading a review is to go straight to that practice. So see this part, especially in the decision-making phase, as one of the most influential variables when someone is going to make that decision. So making sure to maintain the quality of reviews, the quantity of the reviews, and the recency of your reviews. Those 3 variables are going to be what's the most important to helping you maintain and manage your online review, your reputation. We found some stats that Google has shared with us recently. And of course, 73% of medical practices are using Google as their primary source of reviews. As I said earlier, most people are going to Google as their first step in reviewing and researching a new practice. So it is important that you've gone in and you've made sure that your Google location, your Google business for your urgent care has all the most recent, latest and greatest reviews. And that makes sure that the average of 24 reviews are left on Google. Again, I mentioned earlier that 40 is that magic number when it comes to validating someone's urgent care. So make sure that you've gone in there and you've at least have 24, probably somewhere north of 40 reviews. And then of course, the medical practices that are out there have an average of 4.2 star rating. So again, that goes into that social proof of understanding that 5-star reviews is probably not realistic for any sort of urgent care, but a more realistic place to fall in with the rest of the crowd is somewhere around 4.2. So strive for that 4.2. We also pull some other stats around the healthcare industry as well. So we know that urgent care is a very important platform for this purposes of today's webinar, but other folks in the healthcare industry, specifically in the dentistry field, are somewhat similar to where we're seeing the trends emerge in the urgent care and medical practice field. So 84% of dentists have those Google reviews, are using Google to be able to maintain their online reputation. 38 reviews is the magic number for dentists, which is a little bit more than that medical practice And then of course their average star rating is just a tad bit higher with a 4.66 star review as well. Just giving you guys some context and relevancy. As if I haven't been compelling enough, if you are like me and you are measured on revenue, if you are measured on lead flow, online reviews matter when it comes to revenue growth as well. So if you were to improve your star rating from a 4.0 to a 5.0, that increase in your online reputation can show you as much as 9% increase in revenue as well. That correlation is really important in understanding what it really means for you to manage your online reputation. And of course, since your patients are finding those reviews important, Google's algorithms also really care about user behavior and user intent when they are using their search engines. So Google's, not to get too nerdy on everybody, but Google's algorithms as the years have progressed are trying to mirror and mimic user behavior, the behavior of the consumer as closely as possible. So with that, they've also started to use the rankings of online reviews and have actually used that as the third most influential factor in search engine placement results. So when you think about your Google review, your Google ranking, and people not going past that first page, on top of obviously optimizing your pages for search engines, making sure that you have that social proof, making sure that you have your online reputation managed and buffered is also going to be more and more important as time goes on. Now for customer service, online reviews play a really big hand in helping to position yourself as a really important contributor to your patient's overarching experience. So when a customer or a consumer or a patient of yours thinks that they have found themselves in a situation where the service has failed, maybe some bedside manner, maybe some office manager, maybe some long wait times, how you handle that situation to rectify someone's experience ends up yielding a much, much more loyal patient for you in the long run. So if we look at this chart here, we look at on our x-axis, we have our time. On our y-axis, we have our customer loyalty. If at a certain point in time you have a service failure, which is inevitable, this happens no matter what, and you have that downtrend and you decide at the bottom of that parabola that you've decided to rectify that customer's service experience, you end up having a customer in the long run about a business who's going to change their mind. They're going to, 70% of people change their mind after you resolve it. You're going to have a much more loyal customer for you in the long run if you weren't to even have a mistake happen in the first place. We call this the service recovery paradox, and we're starting to see this trend emerge more and more as people are taking to online reviews to voice their frustrations about a situation, and how a service provider responds to that is actually yielding much more loyal customers in the long run. Now, online reviews, we've talked a lot about how online reviews are that vehicle, they're that mechanism that your customers or your patients are using to speak to your future and potential patients. But I thought I'd share some best practices and tips that you can apply today to your urgent care to help manage your online reputation. I've mentioned a few times that I'm a nerd, so notwithstanding, I thought I'd share this quote about what Bill Gates had to say about your unhappy customers. Your unhappy customers, and in this case, we might just replace customers with patients, as your greatest source of learning. So if you're looking for ways to improve your urgent care, you're trying to improve the ambiance, you're trying to improve the efficiency, your unhappy patients are going to be your greatest source for figuring out how to improve the overarching experience that you have provided to them. My recommendation for most people who are looking to get started with managing their online review is to focus on those sites that your patients use. Now, there's a couple of ways in which you can start to identify how your patients have found you. I think it's pretty much commonplace right now that people are taking to Google to do that research. They are taking to Facebook to ask for friends, look for that validation, that social proof. But there are other platforms out there on which you should consider managing your online reviews, things like ZocDoc, things like RateMDs. HealthGrades is also a really important one as well. Not to mention that there are probably going to be portals, patient portals that insurance agencies are going to be having their patients go through as well. So the thing is that there's no lack of place for your patients to leave reviews about you. And my recommendation is to start small and scale from there. Let's go to the most important patients that your patients, portals or mechanisms that your patients have found you. And you can survey your patients or just ask them how they heard about your practice or heard about your urgent care. And start there. So you want to make sure that you have those industry-specific review sites. And then obviously look at the review sites that are indexed by search engines. And then use those as a place to convert those potential patients into existing or future patients for your business. And make sure, again, that you're starting with the ones that matter most to you and to your practice. And when you're asking for someone to leave those reviews online, make sure that you are using your approach in a very authentic manner. Don't mask those reviews with some sort of incentives. I've seen folks offer to give someone a gift card. I've seen folks offer to give someone some sort of quid pro quo in exchange for reviews left online. The more authentic the reviews feel online, the less curated they feel, the more folks are actually interested in partnering with that person, partnering with that business, or in this case, partnering with that urgent care. Also, timeliness is of the essence when it comes to online reviews. So when you do have a patient and you have them standing there maybe at your front desk as they're checking out, maybe as someone is done with their consultation with you, be prompt and ask them to leave a review online. And of course, the seamlessness of how you're soliciting those reviews is also incredibly important. I don't know about you, but my phone is never not within arm's length of me. So asking for reviews for me as a consumer through SMS text is really important because I can reply immediately, or via email because I'm constantly on my email is also a great way to get some feedback from me as a consumer. So I assume that most of your patients are in a similar boat where their phones or their mobile devices are not far from striking distance with them. So make sure that when you are asking for those reviews, you've asked for it in a modality that makes it easy for them to leave those reviews. And of course, consistency is key. So we've talked about how the timeliness or the most recency of your reviews is an important variable in people trusting your online reviews. So make sure you're consistently asking for those reviews, and so you can have a nice steady stream of that feedback left for your potential and future patients coming into your urgent care. What's also really interesting, and it's been more of a mental hurdle for a lot of urgent cares practices that we've talked with, is the fact that people either forget to ask or are hesitant to ask. And so if you're in that space where you're concerned that this might throw off some of the rapport that you have with your patients, people actually would write, and the vast majority of people would write a review if you were asked. 70% of them would write that review if they're asked. But only 1.5% of folks are actually proactively writing that review. So some subtle ways in which you can start to ask for those online reviews is to put up a sign, as I've shown here, at your kiosk or at your checkout window, making sure that, hey, our team works hard for our patients every day. Give us some feedback online in these various places. I've seen businesses actually on the back of an appointment reminder card ask for a review online. I've seen people leave decals or maybe some window clings as people are actually leaving the practice as well. This also is a two-way communication mechanism between you and your patients. This gives you the opportunity to show your appreciation that they have opted to choose your practice, but also gives you the ability to leave you some feedback, both positive or opportunistic, about their experience that they had with you today. Again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but meeting your patients where they are, especially with how it's going to be an easy modality or easy mechanism for them to leave you that feedback. It's becoming more and more prevalent today as people are on their mobile devices, that email and text is a great way to solicit those online reviews from your patients. In fact, 91%, I actually venture that this is probably a much higher statistic, but 91% of adults are saying that they're keeping their phones within arm reach 24/7, and 98% of text messages are, in fact, a better mechanism or modality through which to speak to your patients, with that deliverability and with the ability to reach those customers 98% of the time. Again, if you are going to ask for those reviews, if you are going to use SMS text or even email, make sure that you've made it easy, you've made it seamless, just one tap to leave a review. Again, the timeliness is of the essence, so 24 to 48 hours after the appointment, ask for that feedback. And then I like this variable of removing friction. I think that there's a whole webinar here I could do about how to make the review process less painful for folks so that they don't have to have too many clicks. They can leave one review and then use that review across various platforms, which makes it easy for you to manage your online reputation, but it also makes it easy for them to give you that feedback and take time out of their day to give you the feedback that your practice needs. I've used this term social proof before, but I thought I'd zoom in a little bit more to explain what this social proof is. As people are going online and they are looking for validation about your practice and about going to your urgent care, your happy patients are a really important and powerful marketing engine for your business. So those testimonials, what people are saying about your practice, about the experience that they've had at your urgent care, end up becoming that social proof, end up becoming the validation for the type of service and healthcare that they're going to receive when opting to go with your urgent care. So you can use the testimonials as a marketing machine. If you go to birdeye.com, you'll see actually down at the bottom of our page a really good example of that. We actually use our customers as a revolving widget on our website to show people the type of experience they have. You'll see a couple of these samples here that we've taken from across HealthGrades, Facebook, and ZocDoc about happy reviews that people have left, being impressed about the service and the commitment and the bedside manner that this practice has left for them. So this gives that credibility. Having other people, again, we mentioned at the top of the presentation here that roughly 80% of folks, or I believe the stat is 88% of folks, trust the reviews left by strangers online as much as they trust the word of mouth referrals and references that their family and friends have shared with them as well. So the social proof is a really important component when building trust with future and potential patients. Also, I mentioned earlier about displaying this on your website. It's really easy to use a widget, toss on a badge, or even have a live feed of your reviews coming in from the respective platforms that are important and valuable to you as a healthcare provider. But you can use that live, updated, fresh content. People do, again, they care about how recent your reviews are left, so making sure you have those reviews that are less than 3 months old out there and available to the general public to see. And then, of course, you can use those testimonials to convert those prospective patients. We've already talked about that the next step that 76% of folks do after looking at your online reputation is to immediately select your healthcare practice. So make sure that you have that there as an easiest way to convert those prospective patients into actual patients of yours. So I've talked there for quite some time. Hopefully I haven't inundated you with too much data, but enough action that you can really start implementing some great repeatable routines at your practice to manage your online reputation. But the end all be all is that online reviews matter, and they matter a lot. In fact, 92% of folks are consulting online reviews before they choose a new healthcare provider. And when it comes to ranking on that first page of Google, online reviews are starting to become that third most important variable in making sure that you are found and are found on that first page of Google. Some quick tips and best practices: make sure that you are directing your patients, once they have had an experience at your urgent care, to those industry-specific sites. I highly recommend Google as a great place to start if you haven't already started gathering your online reviews. But of course, there's things like ZocDoc. There's also places like HealthGrades as well. When asking for those reviews, be authentic. Ask for those reviews as quickly as possible. Make it easy for people to leave those reviews for you as well. And then make sure that you are consistently asking for those reviews from all patients. Get that full 360-degree view of your urgent care. Again, I've had people who are concerned about asking, so just ask. Be direct. Ask them for that feedback, that their feedback is valuable and important to them. And don't forget how easy it is for you to ask for those reviews on email, on text message, and how reviews really do help with some of that social sharing and using that as a marketing engine for you and your urgent care. I want to thank everybody so much for carving out 30 minutes of their time. And I know Kathy mentioned that we have some questions that already came in prior to this webinar. So I'd love to answer whatever questions we may have.
Yeah, great. This is really fantastic information. I mean, I think it's even, I mean, it's applicable for all businesses, so including my own. A couple of questions, things that you brought up, like and I'm seeing this too, a lot about the near me, for the business when you're searching for that. Is there something that we can do, any one of us in business, to be able to get us near that top of that, of the near me, or is it just all of the things that you've been sharing with us today that actually drives that ability to, so when I type in urgent care center near me, that, the center, that's been doing a lot online is going to be able to come up?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are lots of variables when it comes into rank area. It's called SERP, so search engine results placement. The most important variables tend to be how you've optimized your site pages for search engines. So SEO is in and of itself a very meaty topic, but making sure that you've optimized your site pages that have urgent care, but also making sure that your urgent care has the updated name, address, and phone number is probably the single most important variable to be found in the near me searches. We call it NAP, or name, address, and phone number. But if you do have a healthcare practice and you are found on multiple platforms, make sure that your name, address, and phone number are consistent across Google or across Yelp, are also accurate across ZocDoc and HealthRates, et cetera. That consistency is also really important. With having your business registered in that way, that's also how you're going to be found on that first page of Google. In terms of other locations-based near-me searches as well, making sure that the content on your website is also updated, not just with your name, address, and phone number, but making sure that you have fresh, updated information on your website so that people can find you, and search engines will index your content more frequently.
Oh, that's great. That's great information. You also said, close to 90% of people that read responses to the online reviews and using that in their decision-making process. Of course, I see, and, we see a lot of companies that don't respond. If there's a poor experience, should the business respond? And what should they say?
Yeah, I know it's never great. It never feels great to get a piece of what I call opportunistic feedback, but it is negative feedback about a business. I always try to see, just in general in life, the glass is half full. And so when you do receive that review where someone has left you that opportunistic or negative feedback, you always want to try to take that with with an open mind and understand that person's individual and unique experience could have been compounded by other variables in that person's personal life. So try not to take it too much to heart that someone has left you a bad review online. When it comes to responding to the reviews, obviously they're going to be, my first inclination is always to try to get someone to be as specific as possible to make sure that the person knows that you know who they are and you know their specific scenario. Obviously in the healthcare world, we have HIPAA compliance that we need to be very cognizant of. But the timeliness is a variable that you can control when responding to those negative reviews or opportunistic reviews. So as soon as you see one online posted, your quick response time is really a really important variable. So making sure that you acknowledge the person who has left that review, obviously thank them for the time that they have spent in giving you this opportunity to receive their feedback. And then my advice, especially in the healthcare industry, is to say that you will follow up with them directly with a phone call, with an email, or whatever sort of mechanism is best for you and for your practice to reach back out to them. So that I like this approach because, first off, it shows that you care. It shows that your bedside manner, that your patient experience is of the most importance to you and to your practice. And it shows that you are monitoring the mechanisms, the feedback mechanisms that matter most to consumers, which is our online reviews, that you do care what they have to say. But it also shows that, you aren't going to handle this and have a throwdown in the middle of a very public forum, that you are going to take the high road and you are going to take the conversation offline and make sure that person's problem is resolved. Now, I have seen when someone does respond in that way, and especially responds personally, I have seen that people have actually gone back and either updated their review and left a better star rating than the initial rating, or have completely just removed their review. Because we're kind of afraid of that confrontation, especially in such a public forum, we often forget the fact that people can go back and change their mind and change their opinion and change their reviews. And if you don't go back and try to reconcile that person's experience with a more positive one, you're not even allowing yourself the opportunity to improve that online rating. You've kind of left that bad one there to sit and fester for a while. So by not responding to those reviews, you're actually doing more harm than good. And by approaching that conversation head on, you have a lot more opportunity to improve your online reputation and improve that experience for your patients.
Great advice. And finally, you said about for the search rankings that for a 1-star increase as it starts, kicking you up in the rankings. Does that mean if you lose 1 star, you also lose ranking in the search engines?
That's a great question. I personally have not seen a 1-to-1 correlation between a lower star rating and your search engine placement results. When we look at the star ratings and we look at the ranking variables, one of which is going to be the volume. Google does care about the social proof there, so how many people have looked at your practice. I assume that star ratings are going to become more and more heavily weighted in terms of search engine placement results. But we have not found that 1-to-1 correlation yet. Suffice it to say, though, that the more reviews that you have, especially the better reviews that you have, the more likely it is that people are going to select your practice. And so they're going to then be more inclined to leave those reviews. So I am assured that there is causation with that star rating, but I don't have any data to validate that there is a direct correlation between your star rating and your search engine placement results.
Wow, interesting, really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, MK, this has been enlightening. Every time I talk to you, I learn even more. I was going to say, if you wanted to advance a couple of slides so that if anyone had any questions that, about any of this, they can contact you on the, so you've got all the information. And of course, we're going to, be sending this out, so you don't have to worry about, writing it down right now. And then the next slide is my contact information. So you can also, reach out if you have any questions for either one of us. That being said, MK, thank you so much. This was great information, and I believe a lot of people will benefit from this information.
Well, thank you so much today. I love this topic. Clearly, I'm very passionate about this and helping to give everybody the upper hand in helping to improve their marketing. Thank you so much for your time and for giving me the opportunity to share some of the insights we have with you and your audience.
Great. Thanks so much. Everyone have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.